Welcome back to good news that might actually make you feel hopeful for the future. I have an absolutely fantastic one for you today. Arizona has almost completed its 27th wildlife crossing, and it's reduced collisions with wildlife by over 90%. Sorry to be a bummer here for a second, but 365 million vertebrate animals are killed by cars just in the United States every single year. That's a million per day. Of those, between 1 and 2 million are large animals like moose and deer and elk, and these wildlife crossings are one of the #1 ways we can help them and protect them. And as a nice added bonus, it will prevent staggering amounts of damage to cars and harm to people. This is an example of a car that hit a deer. It's not pretty. Arizona is proving that just 26 overpasses can have a massive benefit in terms of saving the lives of animals and also preventing wrecks and harm to people. We should be doing this in every state, everywhere. Animals simply cannot understand roads and headlights and cars, and they never will be able to, and they deserve a fighting chance. So it's so cool to see this. If you like getting good news like this in your feed, give me a follow, and I'll see you next time.
This is more good news from around the world that nobody talks about. Japan just released 8 rare birds that were extinct for decades, while an unknown group is reportedly rescuing animals from labs and farms in secret. In other news, this woman makes dolls for children with disabilities so they don't feel alone. New York City worker opened up his own home to teens aging out of foster care since 2007. He has taken in more than 50 young people with nowhere to go. Scientists have invented a skin-like hydrogel that heals wounds 90% within 4 hours, fully within 24. In other news, a 17-year-old South Los Angeles student, Lamont Newell, has received 65 acceptance letters and plans to attend Columbia University to study industrial engineering. The valedictorian with a 4.4 GPA earned a full ride. A 15-year-old girl from El Monte, Mexico captured the hearts of millions by choosing to pose proudly beside her father's garbage truck instead of having a lavish quinceañera. Steve Carell owns and manages a general store in Marshfield, Massachusetts. If you see in this page, share this and follow me for more. It's just more good news from around the world that nobody talks about.
So you know how Trump fired over 100,000 government scientists because they researched things he didn't agree with, like climate change? Well, they all got together and just launched a new website to share climate data with the public. And I can't explain why, but that makes me emotional. Their mission on the website says, at a moment when critical climate information was being deleted or distorted, we stepped up to rescue key climate resources. That is so wholesome. Oh, and their site is called climate.us, by the way. It's essentially a clone of climate.gov, the website that Trump took down. I can honestly say that I never once visited climate.gov, but I can also say that I will be visiting climate.us every single day, because I will be damned if these scientists think that we don't care. This is genuinely the most wholesome news I've ever seen, and these scientists need to be protected at all costs.
Nature lovers like you deserve some good news, so here are 7 positive stories that you might have missed in the news that happened this week. And if you like this list, make sure you follow us at Bark, where we share positive news about dogs and nature and encourage people to pet dogs and plant trees. Firstly, a critically endangered white abalone has been spotted in the wild for the first time in 5 years. Scientists have discovered dozens of new species in a remote region of Angola. Wildlife is already using our new wildlife bridge in California before construction is even complete. More than 5,800 endangered rainbow trout have been rescued from a drying creek. Bald eagles and peregrine falcons are being downlisted after major population recoveries. The rare Dartford warbler has made a remarkable comeback in Britain after decades of conservation work, and Wales has just recorded its largest puffin population ever.
Here's some good news to help you get through June. Monterey Park in California became the first city in the US to permanently ban data centers, with 86% of residents backing the ban. The world's mangrove forests have started growing back rather than shrinking for the first time in decades, reversing losses that once wiped out an area the size of Jamaica. The kiwi, New Zealand's beloved national bird, has returned to Wellington's hills after more than a century, thanks to the Capital Kiwi project. The River Wye became the first river in the UK to be formally recognised as a living ecosystem with rights of its own, including the right to flow and be free from pollution. A new cancer jab made tumours disappear completely in 15 advanced head and neck cancer patients who had run out of other treatment options. And a record-breaking 52,019 puffins have been counted on Skomer Island off the Welsh coast, smashing last year's all-time record. Tap, like and share to show that good things are still happening.
Let's end the week with some positive news because honestly, we could all do with it. Firstly, the UN has celebrated major progress in disability rights around the world. 20 years ago, countries signed an agreement promising to protect and promote the rights of people with disabilities. Now more than 90% of those countries have laws in place guaranteeing those rights. A huge step forward for inclusion, accessibility, and equality. Next, some encouraging news from China. A new study has found that the country's rapid switch to electric vehicles has helped prevent an estimated 260,000 premature deaths by reducing air pollution. Researchers found that carbon monoxide levels have fallen by more than 30% in Chinese cities, while harmful fine particle pollution has dropped by 32%. And finally, there's fresh hope in the fight against lung cancer. Scientists from University College London and the Francis Crick Institute have identified proteins in the blood that predict a person's risk of developing lung cancer years before a diagnosis. Using AI and machine learning to analyse data from more than 48,000 people, researchers identified 14 proteins that could help doctors identify the disease earlier. And when it comes to cancer, earlier detection can save lives. These stories are all proof that while bad news often grabs the headlines, there are still plenty of reasons to be hopeful. And if you want to stay informed and on top of the news, make sure to follow for more.
Here's some good news that will really give you hope. Californian condors have returned to Oregon for the first time in 122 years. A bird once pushed to the edge of extinction is now soaring over skies it disappeared from more than a century ago. Scientists have developed a solar-powered system that can turn seawater into drinking water while also extracting valuable lithium. One process. Two major problems tackled at once. Meanwhile, a teenager in Virginia built a water filter that removed more than 95% of microplastics during testing. And researchers at Stanford have discovered a way to regenerate aged cartilage. A breakthrough that could one day help millions living with arthritis. Finally, a young patient with an aggressive brain tumor achieved an extraordinary outcome after an experimental treatment, giving hope to families facing diagnoses that once seemed impossible. Maybe that's the thing they don't tell us enough. While we're distracted by everything going wrong, people are trying to fix what's broken and solving problems that once looked impossible. Follow at Earthly Goodness.
Emotional day as a 23-year-old New Orleans man rings in a new future at Manning Family Children's Hospital.
23-year-old Daniel Cressy became the first person in Louisiana to be functionally cured of sickle cell disease through gene therapy. That means the disease is no longer active in his system. Cressy says that his dream of becoming a pilot was almost taken away from him because of this blood disorder. He says it was tough, a two-year journey under this procedure, and he wants to pay that forward with his own nonprofit to help other people going through sickle cell treatment.
This entire journey was the hardest thing I've done in my life. And the reason why I work so hard with our organization, Privileged Pilots, is because I don't want anybody else to have to experience the loneliness and the uncertainty and the hopelessness that I felt a couple of years ago.
Someone's ability to access treatment and potentially cure should not be defined by their zip code. People in Louisiana deserve the same opportunity as people anywhere else in this country. The people living with sickle cell disease are here. They are our neighbors, our friends, our families.
Doctors say the therapy uses a patient's very own stem cells that have been edited in a lab so they no longer produce the defective cells that caused the disease. We're told around 3,000 people in Louisiana have sickle cell disease. That is the highest rate per capita in this country.
Welcome back to episode 16 of Good News that might actually make you feel hopeful about the future. Today we have a new kind of battery that solves one of the biggest problems with batteries. Most large-scale batteries that we use today for cars and energy storage use lithium, and lithium mining is not great for the planet. But this new type of battery uses salt, something we already have in abundance and is incredibly cheap compared to lithium. This is not some faraway technology. They're already mass producing cars with salt batteries, in China, like this Nevo AO6. Drawback of salt batteries is that they have a lower energy density than lithium. So this car will have a lower range than your typical lithium car. It has about 45 kilowatt hours of energy, whereas your typical lithium EV has more like 60 to 70. Where salt batteries really shine is with energy storage because it's so much cheaper than lithium. You can scale up something like this so much easier. Another thing that salt batteries do really well is cold weather performance. One of the biggest drawbacks of lithium batteries is that they take a huge hit in the winter. Salt batteries don't really have that problem, which is a win for cars and for energy storage. If you like getting good news like this in your feed, give me a follow, and I will see you next time.
Tired of seeing bad news? This is more good news from around the world that nobody talks about. A Brooklyn kid offers therapy sessions for $2 to feed starving classmates at lunch. Meanwhile, New York City breaks record for lowest amount of violent crime in city's history. At a packed metal concert, a group of fans lifted a 19-year-old man with cerebral palsy above the crowd so he could experience crowd surfing for the very first time. On May 18, 2018, a silent act on Memorial Day cut through a stormy afternoon to unite an entire stadium when a torrential downpour threatened a solemn tribute to America's missing military personnel. A civilian stepped out to shield a rigid captain, proving that honoring the fallen is a duty shared by all. In other news, scientists developed a drug that can stimulate your body to repair and regrow damaged organs. While in other news, Mexico's parliament has reached a historic milestone with a 50% female representation. And last but not least, children with Down syndrome may no longer be born. Japanese scientists have managed to remove the chromosome linked to this condition. That's the main reason that you follow this page, because
everything sucks, so here's 10 reasons to not be sad today. Alligator Alcatraz has officially been closed. Scientists discovered 64,000 square miles of coral reefs across 71 countries and 100 territories that have the potential to survive warming ocean waters, which is huge for conservation. Although we currently have a global rubber shortage, the Russian dandelion offers us a solution as its roots can be used to make a natural rubber. 3 Sumatran tiger cubs were just born in the UK. There's only 400 native to Indonesia, so this is great for conservation. A New Orleans man became the first person in Louisiana to be functionally cured of sickle cell disease through gene therapy. For the first time ever, solar energy produced more electricity for the US than coal did. The Netherlands is banning conversion therapy for minors and for vulnerable adults. The world's oldest living land animal is named Jonathan. He's a 194-year-old tortoise, and he was just given the Guinness World Records Icon Award. Delaware Governor Matt Mayer signed a parentage bill to help protect LGBT families, stating that Delaware has set an example. And JD Vance is watching his ambitions for the presidency go up in smoke. We absolutely love to see it. Thanks so much for being here. My name is Jackie Underdog. This is Hope Core Hump Day, reasons to not be sad today. If you want more Hope Core in your feed, follow me. I make a post like this every single Wednesday, and I also make hyperpop punk music you might like. I'll see you next week, or hopefully before then on some of my other content.
It's Thursday night and time for Banana Shirt Good News Only. Good news that came quick off last night's report that Donald Trump was going to try to stop the U.S. Postal Service from delivering mail-in ballots. Well, a judge has blocked that order, saying that the U.S. Postal Service must deliver ballots. And you should feel safe voting by mail or absentee ballot. Our mail carriers care deeply about your ballot. In fact, one of the Dust Bunnies is a mail carrier, and they said that political mail and ballots are treated like gold. We are required to treat them as if they are above all other first-class mail. If we miss a mailbox, we have to turn around, go back, and deliver it. When the ballots start coming in, we're instructed to check every single mailbox for an outgoing ballot, even if the flag isn't up. And if the ballots come back to the mail station after the last driver has left, somebody has to drive those ballots down to the main station. That is how much the mail carriers care about your ballot. Voting by mail is an important part of the democratic experience, and I'm glad that this judge has stopped Trump from trying to cut people off. In other news, a 6-year-old in Norway found a Viking sword. They think the sword is like 1,000 years old or something, and he just found it on the field trip. A company called Broad Group built an apartment complex in just 5 days. This apartment is in China. It's part of a U.S.-Chinese partnership trying to tackle how long it takes to build new housing. The building looks like this on the outside and looks like this on the inside. And the way that they could do it so quickly is instead of building piece by piece, floor by floor, they're stacking pre-made modular buildings on top of each other. The group is making these structures out of stainless steel, which they say is much more resistant to corrosion and weathering, and that it has enough bend in it to be earthquake resistant up to an 8 magnitude earthquake. Now, the prototype went up in China, but the Broad Group has plans to bring this type of modular apartment building to Ohio, Texas, and California. And Massachusetts just wrote a law banning book bans. That's right. The state of Massachusetts says it's against their state constitution to do any kind of book ban at all. A British startup called Bactery has found a way to use bacteria as a battery. A $20 million investment was made into a 121-year-old bridge, and now there is a very cool food hall on the bridge. You can only access it on the Missouri side right now, but it's very cool. So if you're in the Kansas City area, make sure you check that out. And they've apparently found a way to use mushrooms to get E. coli out of the water. So this is going to kick off in the UK immediately, but it's great news for agriculture in America who might want to use a natural substance like mushrooms to filter water to irrigate fields and whatnot. The NCAA is cracking down on redshirting, saying that student athletes now only have 5 years, 5 seasons, and then you got to move on.
The puffins were just so adorable. Am I the only one that used to think that they were penguins? I was an adult when I realized like puffins are animals. Like I always thought it was a species of penguin. Anyways, I'm just happy they have the space there in Wales to be able to roam free and live their best lives away from us humans. And yeah, they're thriving and I love to see it as always. Seems like every month there's a new species that is on the radar, and I love highlighting a new species. It kind of seems like every month. It seems like a lot of wildlife is out there thriving, and I say that pretty much every month in these videos. So good to see all of the animals thriving and, you know, the environment showing signs of not totally about to just give out and the world ends. Because, I mean, hey, you never know. I wouldn't be surprised if that happens in our lifetime, low key. That's just me, though. I just love highlighting these stories every month. And I especially heard about the young man who, I guess he is healed of sickle cell. So I think that's amazing if it never comes back. Because I actually have a cousin who has suffered through sickle cell his entire life. And a couple years ago, it may have actually been during the pandemic or maybe the year after. I'm not quite sure. But within the past few years, there was like a time he had to be in the hospital for like a week or two. So it is a debilitating condition, and I am so glad that they're making advancements in the treatment. I hope that this could get somewhere, and this is just rhetorical, just me kind of thinking out loud, but also in my videos there's a lot of advancements in medicine, as well as you've seen plenty of stories about, you know, the things that are happening in like the medical world and things like this. When we hear, oh, someone was healed of sickle cell, and in Japan, the one story, the news bite there where they mentioned where Down syndrome may not be a thing in Japan. Like whatever happens with these things, and this is just my curiosity, I'm always like, okay, we hear of these remarkable, miraculous stories, but like, why don't we ever hear more of it? Now, I know medicine and treatments and things, it has to go through rigorous tests and trials. I wonder, like, whenever it moves on to the next phase, maybe does it not pass, or, you know, maybe the funding, you know, doesn't keep up to what they need to be able to make the advancements to where they can start treating other people. But it always just is something that I think about when you hear of these stories. And just like the little hydrogel sleeve that they mentioned at the beginning, where it's supposed to heal scars and stuff, like what happens with stuff like that? But where does it ever lead to after this? Like I would think if someone was able to be cured essentially of sickle cell, like that's like huge. I feel like that should be like what's the next step of this? Does this go through like the FDA for them to approve like of the treatment? Like, I don't know. It's definitely something I'm going to Google, because I just thought of that as I was getting the video together. But I just love to see it. Any medical advancement is better than just staying stagnant hopefully that means that we can save more lives. Not to be a Debbie Downer, but I have my conspiracies about like cures and treatments and stuff, and I don't want to be that person. But I am one of the people that kind of think that a lot of these diseases and conditions have cures or ways that they can manage and save lives. But I just honestly think that they just don't want to put it out there, which I kind of don't understand, not to go off on a different tangent and topic. But I feel that, okay, if the FDA and all of the pharmaceutical companies want the money to be able to be treated and doctors and everything, wouldn't you still be getting that for the cure as well? Like, I would feel like people would pay top dollar to save their lives, right? I don't know. That's just always been my logic, and I never really understood it, which kind of makes it seem like the conspiracy would sound kind of dumb. But anyway, you guys, this is just me having a deep philosophical thought live on YouTube. I also think that it's really good that the wildlife have a crossing, or multiple crossings rather, in Arizona, because I feel like every like major city, or at least the area where it may be a little bit more forestation, to start doing this. Because I'm not gonna lie, y'all, one of my biggest fears is hitting a deer or something, or a bear. It just freaks me out. And actually, not to bring up another cousin, but that actually happened to a cousin of mine. It totaled her car, and it really freaks me out. But yeah, other than that, of course, we don't want huge deer and other animals that live in the forest to be susceptible to getting killed and ran over when we don't mean to do it. So I think this would definitely help them thrive as well, which is a good thing to see. And I wanted to also ask y'all, would y'all live in the modular apartment? I don't know. I feel like it sounds good in theory, but I would have to see how the first one goes. Because to build something in 5 days or a week, however long they said, I don't know about that. But I think it makes sense, because if you build each piece separately, then, I guess you could just essentially put the whole thing together, if you will. We'll find out how it goes. If something goes wrong, I'm sure it will be on the news, but it's a good idea, very innovative. I was thinking maybe that could help the cost of living go down, but I think they said it was somewhere in Asia, maybe China or Japan or Taiwan. I forget what it says, y'all. I'm sorry. But you think they would ever bring that here in the United States, even if it was successful? I don't know. They don't even want to bring the Chinese EVs here. So it's doubtful, because these apartment complexes and everything are just making too much money robbing us. That's the stories that I wanted to bring to you guys. I don't want to ramble on too long, as I tend to do. I want to keep it quick. But let me know if any of these stories resonated with you, or if you came across a good story in the past few days or this month or whenever. It could be personal news if you're willing to share, or just something you randomly heard off of a news story or something. Definitely share it down below. I know these don't really get that much reach, but I always like to ask. I'm always looking for good news, and don't want to forget that it's a great news that we got today that, birthright citizenship is going to stay in place, thankfully, which is a part of the Constitution. Don't know how that even got to the Supreme Court, but glad they upheld it. It would have looked super suspicious if they wouldn't have, but that's also some good news out there, which we need to hear. So yeah, let me know what you guys think of this down below. If you made it this far, I appreciate you as always. And if you found any value or learned anything in this video, definitely consider liking and subscribing, because that does help to grow the channel, and it's free. One of the last things we have free in this world. Consider it. I would greatly appreciate you for that. And that's all I have. And I'm going to catch you all in the next video. Bye. See ya later.